Some people believe the Las Vegas Raiders season is already over. While that might be true, there are still some important things we need to figure out before the season ends. Is Scott Turner the next big offensive mind like Ben Johnson? Is Antonio Pierce the real deal as a head coach? Can Garrett McGuire bring some hope with the new offensive coordinator? Which offensive linemen deserve to stay next year? And which rookies are the future stars and which are not? One rookie who seems to be standing out for the Raiders is Jordan Meredith. In fact, Meredith has earned the starting job, and Antonio Pierce had some strong words of praise for him. Jordan's done a great job filling in. The way he's been playing, he's earned the right to be a starter going forward. You always want chemistry on the offensive line, but Jordan's been consistent, and that's what this team needs. This is a big statement from Pierce. He didn't just say Meredith is filling in due to injuries. He said the young player has earned the role. This raises questions. Has Dylan Parham lost his spot? Has someone else? Let's talk about Jordan Meredith. He's been quietly building a reputation as a solid offensive lineman. Earlier this offseason, I compared him to Cody Whitehair in his prime, and now he's proving me right. Meredith has been playing so well that his PFF, Pro Football Focus grades, are among the best on the team. For those unfamiliar, PFF uses advanced technology to track player performance. It highlights who's doing a great job and who isn't. According to their data, Meredith has been consistently impressive. And here's the exciting part. He's only in his third year. There's so much potential for him to grow even more. This is why it's great to see the Raiders recognizing him as a starter. But it's not just about Meredith. We also need to figure out if players like Dylan Parham, Andre James, and DJ Glaze are part of the future on the offensive line. On the other side of the ball, there are more players whose roles need to be evaluated. But for now, Jordan Meredith has earned his chance, and it's exciting to see how this will shape the team moving forward. Cody Whitehair originally stepped into the left guard position, but after he got injured, Dylan Parham also dealt with some injury troubles. That's when Jordan Meredith stepped in and took his opportunity to shine. If I had to guess, the Las Vegas Raiders are likely moving on from Andre James. It just makes sense. Andre James has been the weak link on the offensive line. He's not even close to being a top 10 or a top 15 center in the league, probably more like bottom 10. This is where Jackson Powers Johnson comes in. To me, it's a no-brainer. Johnson should be the Raiders' starting center for the next 10, 15 years. You don't mess with that kind of talent. With him solidifying the center position, the left guard spot became a big question mark. At first, it seemed like Cody Whitehair would get the job. Then Jordan Meredith and even Andrus Peat were considered for the role. Antonio Pierce has made it clear now, Jordan Meredith is the starting left guard moving forward. This is huge for the Raiders. When the season began, the offensive line was a mess. Andre James was at center, Thayer Munford at right tackle, and Cody Whitehair at left guard. That group just wasn't cutting it. Slowly, the Raiders started making changes. DJ Glaze replaced Thayer Munford at right tackle, and while we don't know if Glaze is the long-term answer, he's definitely an upgrade. Jackson Powers Johnson replaced Andre James at center, which was the obvious choice. Now Jordan Meredith has locked down the left guard position. These adjustments have given the Raiders the best offensive line they've had all season. The current lineup includes Colton Miller at left tackle, Jordan Meredith at left guard, Jackson Powers Johnson at center, Dylan Parham at right guard, and DJ Glaze at right tackle. However, there's still a major issue with this group: communication. Offensive coordinator Scott Turner highlighted this during his recent press conference. He explained that poor communication on the offensive line has been the biggest reason for struggles in the run game. If you watch the tape, it's clear. The problem isn't just about players losing one-on-one battles, though that did happen earlier with Whitehair and James in the lineup. The issue is that players aren't always in sync. They don't consistently recognize their assignments or take the right steps. When guys like Jackson Powers Johnson and a healthy Dylan Parham are in the game, They dominate physically. The key now is getting everyone on the same page. If the Raiders can fix their communication issues, this offensive line could finally become a strength instead of a liability. Let me explain some of the challenges the Raiders' offensive line has faced with an example. If you're running an outside zone play to the left, every offensive lineman has to move an entire gap to that side. If there's a defender directly to their left, right on their shoulder, they must quickly get in front of him and cut him off. Now for an inside zone play, things are different. Let's say you're the left tackle and a defender is outside of you. Instead of trying to completely cut him off, you take a shorter step and push him outward, sealing him off in that direction. Then there's duo, a power-based concept. In duo, linemen double team a defender, like the center and left guard teaming up on a defensive tackle, and then one of them needs to move up to block a linebacker, depending on where the linebacker goes. If there's any confusion between the two linemen about who's taking the linebacker, the entire play falls apart. The issue hasn't been the talent of our offensive line. The current group is capable. The real problem has been execution and communication. Players must understand their assignments and react quickly to what's happening. That's why I'm excited to see how the Raiders' offensive line performs next week against the Miami Dolphins. This is a big test for them and could show just how far they've come. The debate on tanking. Some people argue the Raiders should lose the rest of their games to secure a top draft pick and get a franchise quarterback. On paper, it sounds like a great plan. You lose, draft your QB of the future, and win multiple Super Bowls. But here's the reality. It's not that simple. Even if the Raiders get a top 3 pick and draft a quarterback, they still need the right head coach and coaching staff. Coaches like Ben Johnson or Bobby Slowick won't want to join one of the NFL's worst teams. What if the Raiders end up hiring someone less qualified, like Luke Getsy? Suddenly, the quarterback is in a bad system, struggles, and the team is back where it started. Meanwhile, key players like Max Crosby and Colton Miller aren't getting any younger. If the Raiders want to make the most of their current roster, they need to focus on improving now, not just waiting for a future that might never pan out. Look at the Los Angeles Chargers as an example. They had a talented roster for years, and they went all in while Justin Herbert was on his rookie contract. But poor coaching from Brandon Staley held them back. Despite having what looked like a great team on paper, they struggled to succeed. This year, the Chargers made some changes, and though they lost key players like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and even reworked their offensive line, some people think they're in a better spot because of improved coaching. The takeaway, it's not just about drafting talent. It's about building the right system and getting the right people to lead the team. The improvement of a team often comes down to coaching. Let's take another example. Last year, Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, had the chance to become a head coach. He could have gone to teams like the Bears, who had the number 1 overall pick, or the Commanders, who had the number 2 pick. He could have picked his quarterback and built the team his way. But as NFL insider Adam Schefter reported, Ben Johnson turned those offers down. Why? He didn't want to work for a bad organization. And as much as I love the Raiders, let's face it, we've been a struggling organization for a while. This brings me to an important point. Drafting a quarterback doesn't guarantee success. What's even more critical is having a good head coach and a skilled play caller. That's why Scott Turner's current opportunity with the Raiders is so interesting. Turner started the season as the Raiders' passing game coordinator. Now he's stepped up as offensive coordinator. This is his chance to prove if he has what it takes to lead an offense effectively. The Lions went through a similar situation in 2021. Back then, they hired Anthony Lynn as their offensive coordinator. Things went terribly. They started 0-11. Head coach Dan Campbell made a bold move, firing Lynn mid-season and promoting their passing game coordinator, Ben Johnson, to call plays. After Johnson took over, The Lions won 3 of their final 6 games that season. The next year, they won 9 games. The year after, they won 13. Now, Johnson is considered one of the hottest names in football. Turner is walking a similar path. Now, I'm not saying Scott Turner will turn into the next Ben Johnson, but if you ask me, would I prefer the Raiders to win 80% of their remaining games, even if it costs us a high draft pick, because Turner proves he's a top-tier offensive coordinator? Absolutely. Why? Because a good coach matters more than any one quarterback. You can always find serviceable quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold. But having a coach who can maximize a player's talent, like Kyle Shanahan with Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy, is much harder to come by. The Raiders should focus on winning games and building a culture of success. Tanking for a high draft pick doesn't guarantee we'll find the next superstar quarterback. Plus, this year's draft class might only have one top-tier QB, and the rest could be mid-round prospects. Realistically, I don't see the Raiders getting the first overall pick anyway. Other teams with worse records, like those with only 2 wins, are more likely to finish at the bottom. Now, looking ahead to this week, the Raiders have a big game against the Miami Dolphins. Injuries will play a factor. Nate Hobbs is out with an ankle injury. Andre James is also sidelined, and Cody Whitehair won't be available either. This is why Antonio Pierce announced that Jordan Meredith will be the starting left guard moving forward. His performance will be critical as the Raiders face the high-powered Dolphins offense. With Andre James and Cody Whitehair both out, the Raiders have no choice but to make adjustments. Jordan Meredith will likely remain the starting left guard, and the team will need to call up some offensive linemen from the practice squad since only 5 are currently on the active roster. In terms of other players, Michael Mayer has returned to practice and is listed as questionable. However, head coach Antonio Pierce is optimistic that Mayer will be ready to play, and I'm hopeful we'll see him contribute on the field. Jacoby Myers and Dylan Parham are both good to go, which is great news. Meanwhile, linebacker Robert Spillane, who missed part of the Bengals game after getting hurt, will also be pivotal in this matchup. The Raiders face a crucial challenge against the Miami Dolphins this week. If they want to turn the season around and show signs of improvement heading into next year, this is where it starts. While the Dolphins are widely regarded as a strong team, they do have some vulnerabilities. For instance, their star cornerback, Jalen Ramsey, reportedly suffered an injury and may miss this game. Additionally, their offensive line is weaker compared to last year. They lost standout lineman Robert Hunt, and veteran tackle Taron Armstead is also dealing with injuries, which could mean starting a rookie at tackle. These weaknesses give the Raiders a chance to capitalize. That said, I'm hoping for the Raiders' offense to lead the way. Scoring 35 points in a win would be a great sign of growth. If we scrape by with just 7 points and rely entirely on the defense, it wouldn't feel like real progress. One of the key things I'd like to see is the development of our passing game, especially involving Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers. Both players have immense potential, and it would be exciting to see them each get 7 or 8 catches in a game. Mayer, in particular, has shown flashes of brilliance going back to his college days at Notre Dame, where he was once considered the top tight end in college football. Despite not being a top 10 NFL draft pick, he has the talent to make a significant impact. If Scott Turner can figure out how to effectively utilize both Mayer and Bowers, it could open up the offense in new ways. Additionally, the run game needs to improve, and Turner has emphasized the importance of communication on the offensive line. He's planning to make some adjustments to ensure everyone is on the same page. This game against the Dolphins is a big test for the Raiders, and it's an opportunity to show growth in multiple areas. Let's see if they can rise to the occasion. As we wrap up, I want to highlight some positive developments on the Raiders' defense, particularly at cornerback. One standout from the Bengals game was Jacorian Bennett. He played a significant number of snaps, around 30, and consistently impressed. His length, speed, and ability to disrupt opposing receivers are clear strengths. Whether in zone or man coverage, Bennett showed intelligence and physicality. He even held his own against a star like Jamar Chase. Bennett isn't the only cornerback showing promise. Decorian Richardson is another name to watch. While many already recognize Bennett's potential to be a top 10 cornerback in the league, Richardson could also emerge as a key player for the Raiders. He's displayed the physical tools and football IQ needed to excel in Patrick Graham's system. Good cornerbacks often thrive in the right system, and Graham's defensive approach mirrors the success of coaches like Dan Quinn and Bill Belichick. Those coaches have a knack for developing elite cornerbacks by maximizing their skills within a tailored scheme. Graham seems to be taking a similar path, with players like Richardson, Bennett, and Isaiah Pola-Mao showing growth under his guidance. While Pola-Mao hasn't reached his full potential yet, he's still been solid overall. Another intriguing addition is Jack Jones, who previously played for the Patriots. His familiarity with a system similar to Graham's has allowed him to fit in seamlessly. Together, these players give the Raiders depth and flexibility in the secondary. Looking ahead, the Raiders face some decisions. With Nate Hobbs likely out, it'll be interesting to see who steps up. There's a chance Bennett moves into the slot, or that someone like Darnay Holmes gets more playing time. Holmes performed well in the slot against the Bengals, so the coaching staff has options to explore. Finally, I know there's a lot of debate among fans about tanking. Personally, I don't believe it's the right move. A team's reputation matters, especially when attracting top coaching talent. Quality coaches won't join organizations that lack stability or appear quick to panic. For the Raiders to attract a strong head coach, they need to prove they're a competitive team with a solid roster and vision for success. Tom Brady's involvement and Tom Telesco's leadership could also play a crucial role in shaping the team's future. I'm optimistic the Raiders can build something meaningful if they focus on steady improvement. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time with another update.